Welcome back to the All In podcast. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Val Whiting, former pro bowler, viral TikToker, and hype woman to the female athlete. Val, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Natalie.
Like I was saying before, I'm so excited to finally connect. I love your content on TikTok, and I'd love to start out with asking you, how did you even get started with TikTok?
Well, I started back in December 2019 with my son. I asked him for help and I did a couple of videos. I really just wanted to speak to athletes. And then I got stressed out over all the content and I said, okay, that's it. I'm not going to do it. And then the pandemic hit and that was March of 2020. And I lost my job and my business because of the pandemic. And I said, what am I going to do? And I said, okay, I'll go back to TikTok and let's start doing motivational messages and speaking to athletes. But then I saw that a lot of female athletes were getting bullied on TikTok. And I would go in their comments and hype them up. And then I decided to dedicate my whole page to uplifting a female athlete. And I call myself a hype woman for the female athlete. So that's how I got started.
That's so cool. I think it's a lot of people's story is the pandemic happened and suddenly we're gifted with more time to spend online, create the content we want and put out the messages we want. And that's how I found you was literally, I think, on the For You page. And I was like, this is so awesome because I kind of fell into it in the same way where I was noticing, especially as I posted more content about female athlete specific content, like the hate comments were insane. And I had one video that went viral and I woke up with 3,000 like teen boys.
Oh my gosh.
It was horrible. And so that, I think I've read an article where you said at your age, you feel you can take the flack and there's no heat, but it's protecting the younger athletes. And that's how I felt as well. I would love to know your story where I know you had a video that went viral and it got a lot of hate where it even ended up escalating into kind of real life offline.
Yeah. So what happened was on my For You page, a video scrolled up about a kid making fun of the WNBA, saying that they make less than a Walmart manager. And I commented like, well, how much do you make? He's like 12, right? You're only getting allowance. And so he saw my name and went to my page and saw that I was a former player. And then he made a whole video dedicated to me. Searching my name, it was like a screenshot of searching my name up, screen recording, and then Walmart manager, and he had my picture. So from there, all those followers, people who saw that video, came to my page and started like bullying and harassing. And I would have live streams. They would bomb the live streams, and then it got really bad and really dark when people started coming to my Wikipedia page and editing that, going into, they started calling me the N-word, different racial comments, stay in the kitchen. And it got really intense all over me being a female athlete and trying to uplift other women. And then they doxed me, they found out where I lived, my phone number, so they were coming to my house.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was, and they called me on my cell phone and texted me. It was really, it was crazy. And I can't imagine a kid going through that because I was like, is this really worth it? And people were like, why are you still doing it? And the reason I still do it because I get comments from girls, little girls, young girls saying how much I've helped them and how much, I didn't quit basketball because of a video that you did. So that's what keeps me going, even though the hate comments have definitely wasn't as intense as before, but I still get them.
Wow, that is so insane that they found your cell phone number. They're editing your Wikipedia.
Yeah.
So first of all, much respect for keeping going because I remember all I got was I think people were trying to report my account because I was posting about women's sports. So I noticed like some of my videos stopped sending out for a week. I couldn't post. And it was because they were reporting. And then they were going to my Instagram and messaging me. And
yes. Yeah.
But I that's not even close to as bad as yours. But I remember like being really upset and being someone who like none of those things really bothered me. And then all of a sudden it just added up. And I was like, why am I doing this? And so for me, it took a lot for me to like keep going and keep just ignoring it until it went away eventually. But there's still some, obviously. But for you, much respect for keeping going through the fact that like people were literally almost stalking you.
Yeah, I'm like, why does this upset you so much? I'm still trying to understand why, the why behind it.
That's been the biggest eye opener, I think, because what motivated me to share was some of the experiences I had of being bullied in school for being a female athlete and wanting to beat the boys and compete in sports and just being different. And I thought that it had changed and into the next generation. And that made me realize that it hasn't changed as much as I thought. I would love to know your thoughts on your generation when you were going through that age versus maybe what you thought had changed now and what you have noticed hasn't actually changed.
So when I was in school, I didn't get any bullying around being a female athlete. And it might have been because I went to all girls high school.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious if women my age who went to a co-ed school experienced bullying. And when I was bullied in middle school, it wasn't because of basketball. And I was really bad. I would score for the other team and like shoot over the backboard, but I don't remember being bullied for that. So when I heard that girls are being bullied because they're athletes, I was like, really? That's like the coolest thing to be, is to be an athlete, and you're being bullied for that. So it was eye-opening to me that boys still thought like that in 2020, 2021 about girls and telling them to stay in the kitchen and make them a sandwich.
Yeah.
I was like, what year is this?
It's mind-blowing because I think, I look at people who are parents just a little bit older than I am, and I'm like, I couldn't see them raising their kids with these values, yet here there are these kids who are young and, knowing their parents are not that old, and they've clearly raised them with these values or haven't stepped in. But it is hard at that age. I think there's a lot of maybe jealousy and animosity in the world right now, even with the pandemic, that it kind of created a perfect storm for people to go online and let out their hate because they see women winning and they know that they can't ever get there. And then they think that they're better than the girl who lives next door to them. So why can't they also do it? And it's frustrating because you can understand the psychology of where they're coming from, but at the same time, it's just not right.
Yeah. And it kind of made me paranoid. I was like, because I have two boys, one's 20, just turned 20, one's 16. I was like, do you think like this? And like, no, Mom, I don't know what's wrong with them. It's not that deep and why they're so angry at you. So I had to make sure that, they aren't trolling and not trolling, but they don't have that mentality.
Yeah.
And it seems to be kids that don't have like the athletic ability or maybe got cut from the YMCA team. And once in a while you get a good kid. But most of that would troll and be mean. But the majority of our kids that have nothing going on for themselves besides leaving funny comments on TikTok, which is sad. And honestly, I pray for kids on TikTok. They're on my prayer list. They're like the next generation. I don't want them to grow up to be like angry, bitter people, at 40 years old doing this on Twitter.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's crazy. Like you don't see many pro male athletes hating on pro female athletes. In fact, we're seeing a lot of the opposite right now, which is obviously better. I want to dive back like into your origin story. How did you get involved with sports and then basketball?
So growing up, I didn't play any sports at all. All I wanted to do was I ran outside and played outside, and tag was my thing, freeze tag. I loved it. And my dad had a football team, and I was a cheerleader for his football team. And then in seventh grade, I was getting bullied a lot. And it was actually so bad I ended up leaving the school district. Wow. And I thought if I became a cheerleader, the bullies would go away. And so I tried out for cheerleading and didn't make the team. And then later that week, my math teacher said, "Hey, Val, do you want to come out for basketball?" And I was like, sure, which is really odd to me because I didn't have any exposure to any sports. Wow. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll come out. And that's how I got started. I was also probably about 6 feet tall when I was in seventh grade. That's why he asked me. And I was really bad.
You were
What'd
bad.
you say?
I said I was probably like 4 feet tall when I was that age. I went through a very late growth spurt. But yeah, I love to dive into, so you were bad at first. That I've heard that a lot actually from some female basketball players, and they picked it up really quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't watch basketball. My dad would pick up basketball, but I wouldn't really pay attention when he was playing. My mom even played basketball. Neither one of them pushed sports on me, which I find interesting. I honestly think if I were a guy, they would have though. That's another story. So my dad took an interest in me playing. So he would wake up on the weekends and we would go out at 6 a.m. and go over drills and run through tires and get my agility going and run sprints. And then he would have me playing with grown men. I would be playing these grown men pick up basketball. And it was kind of scary and intimidating. It made me tougher. And I remember one instant when I went up, I think I was in 8th grade, which is probably about this height I am now, which is 6'3". I went up for a rebound and put the ball back in and shot a layup. And the guy fell. He fell. And he was like, "You're not a girl, you're a man." And I was like, that hit me so hard because I was just finally accepting being myself and accepting being an athlete and trying not to be bullied. And I was actually, someone said that to me, an adult on the court. So that I will never forget that. And my dad remembers it as well. And I don't remember what he even said to me. He probably didn't say anything to me because he wasn't the one for those kind of heart-to-heart talks. But it just showed me when I look back how fragile people can be with regards to women being strong and powerful.
Right. That's something that stood out to me when you said that, because I experienced that as well, where if you're good at anything, suddenly they say, like, for example, people would say, "Oh, you snowboard like a boy." And it was like, "Oh, okay." Or "You throw like a boy." I used to pitch boys baseball. And I'd be, "Okay, that's so cool." But then I realized that's internalized misogyny for me to be like, it's like, I want to throw like a girl and it's cool to throw like a girl. And I was watching, oddly, I still watch like those Disney Channel teen sitcoms. They're still relevant. And I saw one recently, and I think it was maybe like 6 years old. And the girl, like, I think she threw a football or something, and someone said, "You throw like a girl." And she's like, "Yeah, that's right. And it's better than you." And I thought that actually is important that she owned that statement. And that's what's going to the teen girls that's what they're watching now. And they see her own that. They see her say that instead of saying, "I want to throw like a boy." They're saying, "No, throwing like a girl is pretty strong as well."
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I have boys, and it's so different raising boys than raising girls. It's the same conversations I have with my boys would not be the same conversations that I'd have with girls around sports and their identity.
Right. So how did you then go from basically not ever playing any sports to playing on Stanford's team and then making it into the WNBA?
So I went to high school, this small high school called Ursuline Academy. It's an all-girls private Catholic school. And 9th grade, I was still pretty bad because a coach said that I would never be a good basketball player. I didn't hear it. Someone said that's what someone said, and I heard that years later, like as an adult. Hearing that then, I probably would have quit or something. And my dad, I think between my 9th and 10th grade year, took me out to the Olympic Training Center to a USA basketball tryout. Back then, anybody could show up as long as you pay the fee, and pay your own travel arrangements and all that. So I was there, just really starting how to play basketball, playing against like greats that are in the Hall of Fame right now. And I shouldn't have been there. My dad never shied away from opportunity for me to fail. I don't know, maybe he liked it or something. I was like, okay, well, I'm here. I didn't want to be here, but I'm here. And it was over my head. The drills, the pace, the basketball IQs. But I think he showed me that so I can see where I wanted to go if I wanted to pursue this. And also other tall women like me. That I wasn't around that where I was in Delaware. And I remember one play, was the only time I scored the whole tryout. It was just for 2 days. It was 2 days I was there because I got cut. And I remember getting an offensive rebound and putting it back up, and one of my teammates like patted me on the back, and I just felt so awesome. And it was like a glimpse of what I could actually do. So it was time to make cuts. And I remember going, when you go to the wall, they put the people who are remaining, it's not the names, but it's your number. And I looked, and my number wasn't there. And I started crying, which I don't know why I started crying, but I did. And the Stanford coach saw me. She saw me crying. And I guess she put in her mind that I was really competitive. And then she said she also noticed how fast I backpedaled. So that's how I got on her radar. And to be honest, I tell kids that story because you never know what a coach is looking at. You think they're looking at how many points you score, how many rebounds. And she was watching about how fast I backpedaled and the fact that how I reacted to not making the team. And then from there, I went to Stanford on a scholarship. I actually didn't even know what Stanford was. They didn't write me until probably between my sophomore and junior year. And I always wanted to go to California. So it was a perfect fit. And then when I graduated Stanford, I went overseas. There was no women's basketball in the United States. So I played in Italy, Israel, and Brazil. And then in 96, a league called the American Basketball League came about. And we had all the Olympians from the 96 team played in the American Basketball League except for 3. Those 3 decided to go to the WNBA, which wasn't formed yet. And so the American Basketball League and the WNBA at one point were going at the same time. We were during the winter season, and the WNBA was during the summer seasons, just for like a 10 to 12 month season. And it was like a battle back and forth. They had all the TV contracts, and ESPN wouldn't put all highlights on. So after a while, the ABL folded.
Okay.
The ABL folded, and we all went to the WNBA. There were only 20 spots available, but 90 ladies had lost their jobs from the ABL. And then in addition to that, because our players were so good, the WNBA Players Association put limits on how many ABL players could be on each team. So a lot of people didn't make the cut. And that's how I got to the WNBA from the league fold. And that was 99 when I started. So I was a rookie. I guess I was a rookie 3 times, as overseas and the ABL and then the WNBA.
That is so cool to be part of a league when it's first forming, and especially when the US didn't have any professional women's basketball leagues. Where's the WNBA now compared to where it was then? I'm sure it's like worlds of difference.
It is. I mean, even just the rules are different. When I played, they played 2 halves, so it's kind of similar to the college game. Now it's quarters. Now they have 3-second defense, so the game is wide open, meaning you just can't pack it in the paint. That's how it was when I played. I think the players, they just seem more, I'm not going to say not better, but more advanced in terms of some of the moves they have, some of the things. And every year, every generation players get bigger, faster, stronger because the technology is better. If
right.
That makes sense. Stuff they had access to, I didn't have access to when I played. I think the marketing, honestly, could be a lot better. People don't even know when the season starts half the time. I was watching an NBA game yesterday, and I was like, well, why aren't they advertising that the WNBA is starting? It was on ESPN. ESPN is what carries the game, so I'm really disappointed by that. I almost felt like the marketing was really strong when I played. I remember seeing all the ladies on TV when I was in the ABL. People knew the names and the faces, and Nike had a lot of commercials. They were behind women's basketball as well as Reebok and Converse. So they were always pushing and pumping names out, and names are becoming household names. I don't see the same with the WNBA besides maybe a select few players that people know. Like I think a lot of teenage boys know who Sue Bird is. Right. Or Candace Parker, but they don't know like Melina Deladon, who's probably the best player in the league.
Yeah, marketing is one of the biggest issues, I think, for women's sports. And it's when people say, well, they're not getting the viewership or this and that. It's such a deeper problem. They like to simplify it to that, especially the teen boys who like to argue, but such a deeper problem. It's like, well, there's not the marketing that's letting people know that the games are even on. And then they try to pull it back and say, well, they don't have the marketing dollars because people aren't watching. Well, it's chicken and the egg. Like, I would watch if I knew better when the games were on, or if a Canadian TV station had it, or I was trying to buy that new Nike jersey drop and I couldn't get it in Canada. And it's almost impossible. Like last year I got a WNBA orange jersey
I saw it.
But it cost me so much in customs to bring it over. And I couldn't believe that in Canada, why wouldn't we sell this at like one of the stores here or one of like the Fanatics Canada or something? I just couldn't believe that even though we don't have a team, people up here still watch the WNBA, still are fans and would be fans if we had more knowledge about it.
Wow, I didn't think about that. So now when I see you with that jersey on, I'm like, wow, she worked hard to get that. I mean, that hoodie. She worked hard to get that hoodie.
It was hard, yeah. Like I really want the New York Liberty and Ionescu jersey. And last year I was trying to get one. I know they were all sold out. And then the ones now that say equality on them, I really want that one. But I'm like considering just asking someone in the States to buy it and then ship it up to me, and then I'll send them money because it's just it's not on the Nike app in Canada. It's not on Nike Canada. And it just, I think that's a big difference there because I can buy any men's NBA jersey up here that I want.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Like those are going to be sold. I can go down to the sports store and like go to buy any of those jerseys. And of course we have the Raptors, but we still will sell other teams. But when it comes to women's sports, I'm like out of luck with anything.
That puts it in perspective then.
I think there's a lot of opportunities for like international marketing for the WNBA, and I hope to see that grow. Where do you see the WNBA going, and even like women's college basketball? Because we're seeing both of these things with a lot of spotlight over this past year. So I'm hoping that's going to, take things into the next level.
What do I see? I think I know with the most recent collective bargaining agreement, the league pledged like I think $1 million to marketing, $1 million more to marketing. So I was hoping I was going to see better marketing. I haven't seen it yet. Yeah. Although they did a good job with the draft. I don't know. Did you know the draft was going on?
I did, but like until last minute. Like it was like last minute and all of a sudden it's like, oh, the draft is on. And I was like, I feel like there could have been a little bit more hype.
Yeah. See, that's what I feel every time I see something. And I'm a fan, so somebody who's not a fan, they're not reaching the people who aren't fans yet, or who may want to be fans. It's come so far. I know with regards to the salaries, when I played, I made $30,000 for like my first year, and I think a rookie's salary is like twice that, maybe now, or maybe 3 times. I'm not sure. I know the average salary has gone up. It's now 100,000, which is the average salary. And I read somewhere the top person is making 500. I don't know if that's with endorsements or not. And then I know that came from the collective bargaining agreement from last year, the year before last, which raised salaries 53%. Oh, no, maybe it was last year. No, last year was the pandemic. This was the year before last.
It's like the whole pandemic year blurred together entirely. So I want to go back too, because I know that you had an opportunity to go to med school and you picked basketball. Could you walk through that decision?
Sure. I was pre-med in college, and when you're a female athlete, you're not thinking about professional. I'm not going in as a male saying, oh, well, I'm going to play in the NBA and this is all over. Right. I came in, well, I'm going to be a doctor. So I was pre-med and I was a biology major. And I'd gotten into medical school, UCSF, and I said, okay, I'm going to go play basketball for 2 years. I'm going to defer my admissions. I'll be back in 2 years. They're like, okay, cool. And so I went overseas to play, and then the ABL came, and I just never went back. I just loved basketball that much. And I don't have people's always like, you can go back. So-and-so was 50. And she went back like, I don't care. I don't have the passion for it. I'm not doing it. So but I still love science. I still, and which is why I'm a nutritionist, although You can't tell by the way I eat right now. I'm still on that pandemic diet. I love that. And I used to own a CrossFit gym.
No way. That's
So
awesome.
yeah. So I use like my love for science would go into, just that stuff.
That is so cool. I had no idea you owned a CrossFit gym. That is where was it and what was it called?
It was in Delaware and it was called Game Shape. Game Shape CrossFit. They made you put the CrossFit after it.
Oh yeah, right. That is awesome. And don't worry about the nutrition thing. I feel you on that. I feel like I studied, so I was never a nutritionist, but working with PhD nutritionists during my CrossFit career and, all these things. And then, the pandemic happened and I was like, I'm going to eat what makes me happy. Did you still do any CrossFit at all? Or I guess, I don't know if the gyms were closed for a good time.
Our gyms, I think, just opened up maybe February or January.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I don't follow the main page anymore. I follow this app called Train Heroic, and you can join. Yeah. You've seen that before?
Yeah, I had a coach that they would use it to send me my programming. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm on a part of this team. They call it your team. I mean, I don't know anybody, but she puts workouts up every week, and we do them and we comment. And the week before the last 3 workouts were from the CrossFit Open. And I mean, I have to do really scaled down because I'm getting myself back in shape. But I love it. It's really honestly the only way I can work out. I sometimes I try. I'm like, let me back off. Let me go back to traditional weightlifting, and I can't. I have to do, CrossFit style workouts and the Olympic lifts and everything.
There's something about it that former athletes love. I think it's like that competitive aspect and just the way it kind of blends traditional strength and conditioning with always like learning something different. So you're always kind of humbled by learning new skills. If you're ever up in Canada, I literally just bought an outdoor CrossFit rig. So it has like an area for pull-ups, for muscle-ups, I'm going to buy a rope. So for rope climbs, because all our gyms, we just went into another full lockdown.
What?
Yeah, we're not doing so good up here. We're
Why?
back in lockdown.
What are people doing?
Yeah, like I mean, really, no one. I think we thought we were doing better than the States for a long period of time. And then I think it was really that we were comparing ourselves to Trump. So we were like saying, oh, we're better because you guys have Trump and are kind of all going outside and doing crazy things. And then as you guys have kind of improved a little bit with the numbers, all of a sudden we're doing the opposite. And I think we didn't test people flying in at first. So we had lockdowns and just the lockdowns have just kind of been mismanaged and people are getting really tired of them. But we have all the new variants now. So the numbers are really spiking and we don't have many ICU beds. So we just went into a complete lockdown. Like I just moved a couple months ago provinces. So I live about 15 minutes outside of Ottawa, but technically it's the province beside, and they just closed the borders. So I can't even see my parents because I live on the other side of so even though it's only like 20-minute drive away, I'm not allowed to go. They have police manning the borders. It's like a police state now. It's crazy.
Oh.
But yeah, so I'm at the home workout life. It's been a long.
I hate working out at home.
Yeah,
I was so happy when the gym, because I'm a homebody, and the gym's like the only place I go to. So when they closed that down, I was like, that's the only place I go.
That's me too, exactly. Yeah, for like the last 5 years, the only time I leave my house is like, okay, in the winter, maybe I'm going snowboarding, but otherwise it's only to go to the gym. Like I don't go to parties, I don't, and so yeah, it's been weird having to kind of mix your home space, especially when you work from home, with the gym space. It's hard to get that separation and that motivation. That being said, I want to dive into what you do and how you help athletes. So I know you work with a lot of female athletes. How are you helping them, or what problems have you seen with them during this pandemic with staying motivated when maybe their gyms were closed as well?
Well, what happened was because of my business that I had was teaching basketball in schools. I had an after-school program that taught basketball, but also taught life skills. And so that closed down, and then we tried the Zoom way, and kids were all Zoomed out. And so I started getting a lot of comments about on my TikTok about, well, how do I improve my confidence, or how do I bounce back when I make a mistake? I'm so frustrated with myself, and so I decided to get trained in mindset coaching for athletes. And so I did that, and I started a business with that, which is still growing. And I had my first confidence boot camp, where it was just an hour, and I gave them 3 tips on how to have proactive confidence. And the girls loved it. And honestly, I liked it because I struggled as a player with confidence, and I felt like they related to me. Because sometimes you see professional athletes and you don't you don't see anything about them struggling, at least on their social media. And I just try to, at least, and on my TikTok, I try to be as transparent as possible about my struggles with my confidence, with my depression when I was playing. So a lot of that is how I'm helping girls, being transparent on TikTok, but also having programs where they can build their mindset up. Because you can shoot all the shots and dribble and have the best handles, but if your mind is not strong and you don't know how to bounce back from mistakes and adversity, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, I love that you dove into mental training, because I think it's so much more needed now. And it's definitely become more of a hot topic in the sports world, especially over this past year. I think when people couldn't physical train as much, where they're realizing that sports are like 90% mental. And that's just such an important part of it to train. What are maybe like 3 tips for someone to become more proactively confident?
One thing is to have a confidence resume. Think about all the things you've done well, big or little, and write it down, and so you can always refer back. Another way is writing down, knowing the sources of your confidence. So for me, sources of my confidence were my training and how I prepared, and maybe if I had a great game, I had my confidence went up. We want to avoid people being on the confidence roller coaster. So bad game, you're down. Good game, you're up. You want to be on the confidence train. And the last tip, I can't remember what the last tip was. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Sorry. Confidence resume. Know where your confidence coming from. Oh, this is a big one. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of expectations doesn't mean you don't want to be confident and you expect to do well, but some players would have an expectation. If they don't meet the expectation, then the game was terrible. So I expect to score 10 points. I don't score 10 points, I'm a failure. Well, maybe you had 5 rebounds and 3 blocks, right? So just about getting rid of expectations and concentrating on the process goals. Okay, instead of saying I'm going to score 10 points, I'm going to, every time down the court, be aggressive. I'm going to get open for my teammates. Or on defense, I'm going to move my feet and stay low. So you're concentrating on the technical side of things, not on the numbers, which are unrealistic.
Yeah, that is a big one. I think that's so important, because a lot of times, I know I fell into that trap. I would write, for example, when I was snowboarding, a list of what I needed to land that day, because I'm like, if I can land this, then next week I can learn the next trick. And that's not really how tricks are learned. Like, you can control your effort that you put in, but there's absolutely no guarantee that you're going to learn a trick in 1 week or 1 day or 1 year even. It can take a long time. And then that would be frustrating. And you just stack negative days, when realistically the mindset I have now is like, I wish I could take back and look back then and be like, I tried my best every single day, but yet at the end of the day, I was feeling negative about it, when obviously I should have been feeling positive. So I'm so glad that athletes have someone like you, especially when they're at a young age, to realize this and teach them this part of it.
Yeah, I wish I knew all this, because I was so hard on myself as a player, and I've accomplished some great things, but I never thought it was then. It was never good enough, and I wish I would actually. And I understand you have to be driven, but sometimes you also got to look at yourself and look what you've done and say, "Good job," and that's okay.
Yes. And I also appreciate that you've used your platform to also open up about mental health, like you just mentioned a few minutes ago. I would love to know the difference because between when you were playing and mental health with sports and now, because I think now it's still taboo, but we're kind of experiencing a shift where people are talking about it. I would love to know, like when you were playing, I could only imagine how hard it was to be able to talk to a coach or anyone about mental health as an athlete.
You couldn't. In fact, I think I want to say they called me unmotivated. I was having trouble with motivation. So I was on and off the injured reserve my first year in the WNBA because of depression. Like I didn't want to go to practice. I didn't want to play in games. And if I was on the bench, I was a starter going in, but then I went to the bench and the coach looked at me to come in and I would, shake my head. No, I don't want to go in. And I ended up taking the next season off, the whole season because of depression. And no one knew that. No one knew that until 2020. That's the only time I'd ever told anyone. Yeah. All that time, the only time I ever told anyone was 2020. The only people who probably knew was my husband at the time and my parents. That's it. It was in the paper that I was out for personal reasons or something.
Wow, that is so crazy because I think still in this day and age, I was watching a video of a hockey goalie recently who he was out for some reason. He had to come publicly and try to tell people like, I'm not out because of depression, or I am. Like it was just this point that he had to still explain himself to people versus back in the day, exactly what you said. Maybe people would put it on as like, oh, she has a pulled hamstring, or this happens, and it doesn't help the conversation because now you coming and stating this is probably going to help other athletes who watch and they see your platform, they see what you've done, and now they're more confident to say, hey, I need to speak up for my own mental health and my own wellness.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of DMs from young ladies and boys that said that thank you for speaking out because they thought something was wrong with them because they're an athlete and athletes are supposed to be strong. You're supposed to play through it.
Yeah. What did you do during that year that you took off to be able to get back to that level of play and be in a, just a better headspace mentally and deal with that depression?
Honestly, I never recovered. I played the rest of my career with bipolar depression was undiagnosed. I went on medication, but I didn't do the work with regards to getting therapy. So even though I thought I was better, I wasn't. So I was always up and down. I have one of my journals when I was playing in Minnesota, and a lot of people's like, I'm so sad today. What's wrong with me? And I don't know why I never got the help. And I think if that were now, I would get the help. I would tell the coach something's going on. I need help.
Right. I mean, I think back then people were worried, like you said, that they would get called unmotivated or that people would, put it as something that it's not, right? Like there's nothing wrong with you for being depressed, having anxiety or bipolar, any of these things. It's like anything else. It's something that you can go and get help for. And it's, part of being a human. And it's very unfortunate that people would put this as like, well, you're an athlete, so you shouldn't have this. You're superhuman, or you need to be tough or push through. I'm glad that there's people like you who are changing the conversation. And I'm glad that hopefully this next generation doesn't have to live with that, where I'm hoping now coaches are proactive and they make a safe space for athletes to speak about their mental health openly.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's harder for male athletes because they're supposed to be, the man's man, and, men don't cry and man up, all that stuff. So that's the challenge for me raising boys is to that balance between, being strong, but also being sensitive and in touch with your feelings without being called, punk or simp, whatever the word is. Yeah.
It's so funny when someone commented, when I posted about women's sports, one of my friends, he was a former pro baseball player. He commented something and someone called him a simp.
Yeah.
And he, I don't even know if he responded to that. He like didn't care. But I was telling my boyfriend, I was like, hey, like people are calling people simps. And he's like, my boyfriend's like, what's a simp? And so he looked it up and he's like, oh, that's not a bad thing. I'm a simp. I thought that was so funny. I was like, how interesting. All these people are using it as an insult. My boyfriend's like, oh, that's no problem. Like,
simp. I know. Anytime a boy gives me a compliment, he's called a simp. It's crazy. Like, who are these kids? I'm like, you guys aren't gonna have any girlfriends. You live in your mom's basement at age 40.
Oh, especially like seeing the voice that Gen Z girls have now and like how they're using it. It just so empowered at their age. I just didn't have that voice. Like I'm finding it now to speak about the things I went through then, and they're speaking about it while they're going through it. And so they're not going to take that from some boy who's like calling people simps. They're just not going to even accept it.
No, they're not. They're funny. Sometimes I read the comments that I actually, unfortunately, try to respond to everybody, which I need to stop doing. But sometimes the arguments they're having in my comments between the boys and the girls is just really funny.
Oh, man.
The stuff they say to each other. The girls are always putting them in their place.
Yeah. That's a big difference. Like culturally, that's a shift that's happening. So I hope that's going to improve because I think the boys, some of their motivation, especially as they go through puberty, is like to get a girl. So if the girls are being strong and showing this example, it will create change with the boys because they do want to get a girlfriend. They don't want to be single forever. So they're going to have to start learning about things like feminism and what it is to be like a respectable and just nice guy.
Yeah, like it's a bad thing to be a nice guy.
Yeah, it's so strange. So speaking about parenting, you were talking about parenting your sons, and I saw a hilarious video that you created about just like a bad basketball mom. And I know here in Canada we call them like the crazy hockey parents.
Oh, hockey's good, yeah.
Yeah, so there's always that crazy parent, right, who thinks their kid is going to the show or the NBA, the NHL, whatever it is, and maybe they are. But we have some parents listening, and I know parents are probably they're so passionate about their kids and the success of their kids. How can parents kind of be that passionate about their kids' success, but step back and not cross the line of toxicity?
I think it's key to move from being a coach, because a lot of us try to coach our kids, more to being a fan. I think that's the biggest thing. And that was hard for me too. And my boys, I have one son, he plays college soccer, and my youngest son, he used to play soccer, and he was really good. And I think that I was too, and I didn't know anything about soccer. When I was trying to coach him instead of being a fan and saying, you know what, I liked how hard you played today. You know, things like that instead of, well, why didn't you do this? And the hardest thing for a kid is that car ride after the game, the car ride home after the game, the parents talking about the game. Now, I think it's okay if the kid brings it up. Hey, dad, hey, mom, what'd you think? But if they're silent and they're not talking about it, they just had a bad game, just like if you had a bad day at work, you don't want to talk about it at that moment, respect that as well. So I think it's big being a fan, being a parent, and knowing that sports is also about not just about winning, but it's also about the life lessons they're learning as well. And think about that. Think about the big picture. And I was reading this thing called the 10-10-10 method. I can't remember who made it, but it was like, will it matter 10 minutes from now, 10 months from now, 10 years from now? And think about, will that game matter 10 years from now? And if it does, how you want your child to look back on how you handled what was going on in his or her sports life.
Yeah, I think that's huge because kids will remember that moment, what was said, exactly like you said, in the car ride home. And I know I can remember like things that my parents said, and I have emails that my dad sent me when I was at competition that I still have saved in the notes of my phone. It was like a decade ago. That just meant so much to me. And it's those little things that you remember, whether they're positive or they're negative. So I think as a parent, it is important to realize the influence that you have there with your kid in life and in sport. These are the memories that they're making, and it can be really toxic memories or it can be really positive memories.
Yeah, I remember reading a comment. A young lady said her mom treats her differently when she plays well. And when she plays badly, she is mad at her. That was so sad.
Yeah, that's hard. And I think sometimes we get maybe the motivation piece wrong as maybe parents. They look at the kid and they think that's a way to motivate them. Like you want your parent to be nice to you and friendly and loving, so you get motivated not to have a bad game. But it's really how you handle those bad games that define you and the memories that are made. And so it's not really the best way. I think we have a lot of scientific evidence now that negative reinforcement isn't the best way to motivate people.
Yeah, and dogs. I'm training my puppy. So.
Oh yes, that is true. I know, and there's so much stuff that like you get told, like, oh, if your dog does this, you should negatively tell them this, and it doesn't really work, and it just creates a negative relationship with your dog versus treating them with love. And they have a short-term memory too, but very, very short. So if you're punishing them, sometimes they just don't even know why, so they're not really learning if they're doing the right thing or the wrong thing.
Yeah, my dog and I go to doggy school in June.
That's awesome. I never took my dog to doggy school, but maybe I should have. But she's
no. He has issues he's a puppy, but he doesn't like people, and I think it's because he was a pandemic puppy, so we were isolated. So anytime he sees a person, he's barking, just always barking. So we go to the park, he's barking. So we have to work on that with him.
That's interesting. My dog is the opposite. She is a people lover, but she doesn't like other dogs. And I think what happened was the first day I got her kind of, some people get their dogs at like around 8 weeks. I got her at 12. So immediately I brought her to the CrossFit gym. I think I did before I even brought her home. So she could meet everybody and love people. So she was surrounded by people from the get-go, but then with other dogs, her first experience was kind of negative. She had a dog that kind of bit her ear at the park. So now it's so hard to try to get her to make friends with dogs. My neighbor has a dog and we're trying, and my dog just she just growls at her, and then she'll go up to the neighbor and I want to play. It's so interesting how dogs have that strong personality.
I know. And my dog loves other dogs.
Yeah.
The people. It's crazy. Yeah. So I hope he gets out of it.
Yeah.
You feel like that bad dog owner, what with the crazy dog.
That's how I feel if I bring my dog to the dog park, because she's so she looks like a teddy bear. She's so cute, and she runs up to other people, but then their dog goes to play with her and she won't ever she's harmless, but she just growls at them. And I'm like, I just feel so bad. And then often they blame their dog. They'll say, oh, I'm sorry, she was being aggressive. And I'm like, no, she's just a scaredy cat of all the dogs, and she just is nervous. Yeah. So
she's cute. I've seen her.
Oh yeah, she's adorable.
I like that video you did with her passing the phone to the person. Yeah, that was good.
Oh yes. Well, my boyfriend works all day, so I'm home training, making videos, and she just laying there, are you gonna play with me? How come I don't have your attention all day? Because I've always worked from home, so she's just used to me. I can't always give her the attention. Versus my boyfriend, the minute he's home from work, it's all time for the dog, and so she's obsessed with him. And then with me, she's sassy sometimes. So I thought it was funny, because I'm sure, it's fun to put thoughts into your dog's head, because we all think that our dogs are like little humans and they're thinking things, but who knows, they could be the opposite personality that we actually think they have.
I might do that with my dog if I can get him to sit there. I don't know.
That was the hard part. Yeah, she was always trying to run away. She wanted to play. She thought it was her playtime. And I'm like, no, come back. We're filming a video. So I have 2 questions I like to ask everyone at the end. The first one is, of all the things that you do every single day, what is the one biggest daily game changer for you?
When I do it, it's I started praying more in the morning. And getting my focus off of me and onto God. So that's been game changing for me, just the discipline to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, I think most people answer something that they do in the morning, and whether it's, something spiritual, something religious, or just something that gives themselves time, and like some sort of affirmations or something that gives them some energy or just connection before you go out and have to connect with the world in all these crazy new ways. The last question I have is, say you're at the end of your life, you're looking back on the impact you have made. What is that impact that you want to make over your lifetime?
I want to reach and empower over 1 million girls, improve their confidence.
That's awesome. Well, you're over 100,000 on TikTok now, and I'm sure your videos have reached millions somehow. So that you're well on the way there for sure.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. This has been great. It's always fun connecting with people that you meet on TikTok during the pandemic. And so I appreciate you sharing your insights from your career, from the work that you do helping female athletes, as well as a parent.
Thank you, Natalie. Thanks for having me. This was fun.